Today's episode is sponsored by the Christian Standard Bible. The goal of the CSB is to be faithful to the original languages without sacrificing clarity, all the while maintaining both accuracy and readability. With beautiful designs and multiple study Bible options, everyone, from adults to teens to children, can find a CSB Bible that they enjoy. Learn more at csbible.com.
Welcome to Real Talk Christian Podcast, where we drink coffee and have real conversations on faith, culture, and society. This is Marc Hyde.
And Beth Hyde.
And on today's episode of Real Talk Christian Podcast, you get to hear from the Hydes. And even though we're not single, we're going to be talking about singleness. Beth, you ready?
I am.
Let's go! Beth! Hi.
Hi.
This is really interesting. This is
I
different.
know I haven't been on your podcast in a while. I was single.
You were single last time you were on the podcast. For those people who don't know, I don't know anyone who doesn't know at this point. We interviewed you, episode 39, talking about being single foster mom, and then you adopted all your kids, and then you decided to marry this fool with my two kids, and dragged you up to South Bend, and now we have a 15-passenger van, and you're teaching again, and things are a little different than what they were when you were single.
Yeah, a lot is different. Yeah, I mean, life has definitely changed in the past year and a half. Not even a year and a half.
Say, we interviewed you last April.
Beginning of April, yeah.
Beginning of April, and then we ever stop talking?
No.
Girl, come on now. I got your number, though, in like a week.
No, it was not a week.
Was it longer than a week?
You
Same
didn't
day?
ask me.
It wasn't the same day.
No. You didn't ask me for my number until the podcast, the week of the podcast released. So that was like end of April. So it took you about 3 weeks.
Oh, so it took me about 3 weeks.
Yeah,
Is that what you said?
3 weeks, absolutely.
Okay,
and it was so obvious.
No, it was not.
It was too. I said that. I screenshot your text like to 5 people at least immediately. I'm like, A for effort. But yes, you may have my number. Definitely.
Well, we are not here to talk tonight about our relationship. We're here to talk about singleness, which honestly, I'll be very honest, is not a topic that I can speak well into. I pretty much have had a girlfriend ever since I was like 13, 14.
And Marc was my first boyfriend, so.
And your first kiss?
Yes.
But you already had kids before me.
Yes. That sounds like a...
It's really fun. Yeah, it's very unique. But either way, so wow, I stuttered a little bit. So it's a little weird to do the podcast right now because of family issues and sickness. And then, we started school. Fuller's went on vacation. Chris had to miss it, and just stuff came up, and he wasn't able to be here to hang out with us. And sorry if you're looking for us on YouTube. We have no video this week either because we literally are recording in our third level while the kids are supposedly sleeping upstairs. Hopefully they're sleeping upstairs.
I just heard a thud, so I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I heard
what
a thud
happened.
too.
I'm just going to ignore it.
I'm going to guess Lucy dropped her book because she was ready to go to bed.
Oh, yeah, probably.
So our kids are weird. When it's time to go to bed, Lucy chucks her books out of her bed. Then she always wants the world's biggest books when she goes to bed. Then she goes, I'm done. And then we move on. But either way, Fuller just wants to let you guys know he misses you guys. We'll be back next week, though. We're potentially, I don't know. I mean, we got one interview lined up for hopefully another recent episode. Hopefully that will be the next episode. We'll see if we're able to get that thing pulled off in time. But either way, Fuller's unable to be here. I didn't want you guys to just sit here and listen to me go on for 45, 50 minutes, even though it is a joy and a blessing for you to do that. Beth can attest to that because
I mean, yes, you can talk for 45 minutes.
I can talk for 45 minutes. No question. And what's funny is it took me a little bit to realize, oh, she's not listening. She's on Instagram. So it is what it is. But we still got a show to do. So for the last Well, it's only been a handful of episodes since we started season 3, but in season 3, we've been doing Would You Rather questions. And Beth, I know you know what's going on. You listen to every single episode. Oh, no, you don't.
Okay, the last few weeks have been a bit busy, so I've missed a couple. I'm probably behind 2 or 3. 2.5, actually, to be precise. Okay, don't give me that look. I have a job now. Okay.
A job and 7 kids.
Yes,
but
a full-time job teaching a bunch of little people because apparently 7 kids is not enough
so you
little
jump
people.
back into teaching them more little people. So here you go. Would you rather, Beth? And then I'll answer it too. Then we'll see what America has to say about this. Would you rather spend a year alone in a deep sea submarine, or would you rather spend a year alone up in the space station?
Oh.
Uh-huh.
Space. I would definitely go with space.
Just because cool?
Yeah.
I'd say space, mainly because submarines are stupid small.
Yeah, it's
Like,
small
there's
and
not
very
really-
claustrophobic.
Like, I mean...
And plus, like, bouncing around with no gravity would be super fun.
That would be super dope. 64% of other people say the exact same thing. Would you rather be any movie character that you want, or be any video game character that you want?
I hate video games, so movie, absolutely.
Who would you choose?
A movie? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, if
Well, my favorite
you
movie is
could
While You Were
be-
Sleeping.
So would you want to be
Sandra
Meg
Bullock.
Ryan though? Oh, that's Sandra Bullock. I'm thinking You Got Mail.
Yes.
I'm thinking You Got Mail. That's another
Yes.
one of your favorites though.
Yes. But yeah, Sandra Bullock and in While You Were Sleeping, which is why I love the name Lucy, and my daughter's name is Lucy. Well, not exactly. It's
But
not exactly correlated, but the idea sparked from that movie.
And you are as awkward as Lucy.
Yes. Most of the time, yes.
Most of the time, yes. I would say video game though.
Why?
Like there's a lot of movie characters, but
you don't even
like
play video games.
I don't, but like growing up, there's just some cool
You want to like
ones.
be able to drop kick anybody on
like think like I want
command?
like the Assassin's Creed dude.
I don't
That'd be pretty dope.
I know.
Well, we'll click movie. 62% of people also say movie. That's a very awkward question. We're not going to do that one. Would you rather cheat in games and win, or always play fairly and lose?
Always play fairly. I won't cheat. If I can't win the right way, I have no business winning.
Yeah, I like to win too much. I'm going to go with win. 52% of people say win, and 48% of people say always play fairly and lose.
So do you cheat in every game? Is that why
I cheat if you show me your hand. I'm going to look if you show me your hand.
It's true.
I don't cheat.
That's why I make
I should
you.
say this. But you know me in games. I am such a by the rule book where if you say there's a rule, I actually will look up said rule and make sure.
Yeah, you have
before
to have
we
them all
move
written
on.
down.
I have to have them written down, or I play with the rule book next to me. And even if someone's teaching me the game, I will make sure they don't tell me any crap. Because one time, a buddy, not you, it's not you, it's not you. A buddy of mine, we were playing a game and he did something. And I'm like, you can't do that. And he goes, yes, I can. It's part of the rules. And I said, you never said that. He goes, why would I? The game is huge. It was a huge board game. And I'm like, I could have done that. I don't know, but you can't be pulling stuff out your butt that we don't know about, little home field advantage. So ever since then, I will not let anybody tell me how to play a game without the rule book right in front of me. Unless it's like a card game like with your family and they just hand me a set of rules. And that's the set
Yeah,
of rules.
because we write them down for you.
And your mom laminates them. Your mom laminates them for me. So, which is super, super fun. So, before we tell you about the coffee we're drinking tonight, we got a quick review we want to read for you guys. This is from Terry PK over on Apple Podcasts. And it says, love your show. Your show makes it so much easier to understand the Bible. When I read the Bible, sometimes I get confused. But listening to y'all has helped me. He said y'all, so he might be from the South. Which I know you appreciate that.
Definitely.
I'm going back and listening to all your shows. Thank you so much for taking the time and doing the shows. Well, Terry PK, we appreciate you, man. So I will admit this. I have really sucked with sending out the mini swag bags, like with the letters and the pins, because the UPS keeps sending them back to my house. So now I have to figure out a different way to try to sneak pins into the mail without spending a fortune just to mail pins to people. But I got to get those mini swag bags out to some of you. But Terry PK, reach out to us because we want to send you something, bro. But before we keep going, Beth, we always do this. Something Fuller and I always do. We always drink coffee every single episode. So I'm making you drink coffee tonight.
Yeah, but you made me decaf.
But I made you decaf because...
From Mahalo, right?
It's from Mahalo.
Yes.
Okay, so Mahalo, you can tell them about Mahalo.
Okay,
'cause you know it.
Mahalo was less than a mile from my house down in Knoxville, and I loved it. It was this adorable shop. They had, like, it was
Their Instagram is real cute too.
Well, yeah, because
Their
Hannah
Instagram
runs their
was
Instagram.
amazing.
Hannah's a former student of mine, and she is an excellent photographer, and she takes all their social shots. But yeah, they just opened up another shop downtown Knoxville, and their coffee is just amazing, and their cinnamon rolls, oh my gosh, the best.
You know, I never had a cinnamon roll when we were down there.
Because they sell out so fast. They probably
Oh, is
didn't
that
have
why?
them.
Because
Yeah.
we showed up at like noon and they had like no pastries.
Yeah,
at all.
no, their cinnamon rolls sell out really fast every day. I'm pretty
So
sure.
we are drinking Mahalo decaf, which honestly for decaf, it's still really good.
Mhm.
Now, I mean, you're not a coffee snob.
No,
When I met you, you were drinking Folgers.
I was drinking coffee out of necessity, not for taste.
And now,
I don't have time.
but
for taste.
now you don't drink as much coffee as you
I
used to
don't.
because we
I
make specialty
don't.
craft coffee at the Hyde House.
Yes, and I started drinking. Well, yeah, I just started drinking more water and cut out some I'm struggling. Wow, coffee. It's a long day. I've been talking all day to second graders. Whew. Yeah, I cut out some coffee and started drinking more water, and it made me feel better and not so old. So,
And let's be honest, you can't take as many bathroom breaks as you would want if you were drinking lots of coffee.
yeah, I have to text people to help me. I'm like, I need a bathroom break.
The pleasure of talking with them. But either way, we're drinking decaf tonight. It still tastes real good. I was gonna say you're not a coffee snob because it's a little stale because we've had it for a little bit.
I can tell.
You can
No,
tell.
I can
Wow.
tell. You've changed me.
We have changed you. I'm real excited for the next episode because I got some special stuff. I'm sure Fuller has stuff too. Fuller always is bringing home new coffees too. But I got some special stuff made here in South Bend. It's the Ethiopian Important Joe's. That's some good stuff. But tonight we are drinking Mahalo decaf. If you're listening to us in the morning, because a lot of you guys listen to us in the morning on your way to work. I know Rodney Buse does. Please forgive us for drinking decaf. Forgive us, Father, for we have sinned. But either way,
it's
moving
Friday
on.
night
It's Friday
at
night.
8:50.
Party up with the highs with our decaf coffee. But without further ado, let's jump into the episode.
All righty, let's do this.
So we're talking about singleness tonight. And obviously, we're not single. We're married. We have 7 children. Which is, it's still really funny to say, like, oh yeah, we have 7
I was single
children.
with 5, so.
And you're a single mom with 5. But it seems like in today's culture, I mean, whether you're on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, everybody's getting engaged, everybody's dating somebody. Tinder was created to help people hook up and have relationships and find connections and all these different things. And it seems like our culture is constantly throwing relationships in our faces and saying that if you don't have somebody, there either is something wrong with you, like there might legit be something wrong with you because you can't land a man, you can't get a girl, like yeah, just don't even try anymore. But because you're sitting here, you were single, you weren't waiting for a man to start
29
your life.
years. Yeah. Yeah, so I
But I want
guess
to say, is that something you experienced though and
Yes.
felt?
on and off. It depended. It depended on what I allowed to influence me and what I was around. So a lot of the time in college, it was just watching people pair up. It was watching people, get out of a relationship and jump into another one, or watching people date long term. And I don't know. And so there, it wasn't a big deal, but it was once I was in my first career job and just kind of
In your first career job, like teaching at the Christian school?
yes.
Yeah.
And so during that time, I had my own apartment. I was living alone, and I was like, all right, I have the job. I've gotten the degree. I have my own apartment. I'm ready for a man. And then nothing.
And then, well, you had a couple dates. I love talking about when you got ghosted, though. I don't know why.
Okay, it wasn't necessarily truly ghosted. And I don't know. I've gotten ghosted a few times, yes. But the one time you're specifically talking about, that was after children. The first date I ever went on was after children. You knew that.
I have the world's worst memory.
You really do.
I
told
really
him
do.
the story like 15 times. It's fine.
But it's so funny though. But you had your own apartment. I mean, you went through college, which let's just jokes aside, most people who go to Bible college walk away from Bible college.
But I knew
being
I don't
married,
know why. I just okay we'll back up. When I showed up at college, it was a lot different than what I thought it was going to be. And then I didn't know much about the college, to be honest. I was supposed to go to Northland, where you went to college.
Yep, Northern Wisconsin. Whoop, whoop.
I actually took online courses from Northland, and then there was a lot of stuff going on, and I was hearing a lot of rumors, and I was hearing a lot of things, and so I just didn't feel comfortable with it. And
when you say rumors, this cracks me up. We were going quote unquote liberal in your mind.
Kind of in my mind. I was very, very, very conservative minded in my standards. I would say I was legalistic back then. And
holy rolling
is what I call it. And when I showed up at college, it was a lot different than what I thought it was, because I really didn't know much about the college. And I kind of looked around and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to marry any of these people. I mean, I still liked some boys and attempted to talk to some guys, but I also had a group of friends who were all hot commodities in the Bible college world. And I was like, I'm just going to go back here and go to work. So I worked a ton. I packed my semester hours full, 18 to 21 hours every semester, and worked a ton, and graduated in 3.5 years. And so, but sometime in the middle of college, God told me that I was going to marry a man with kids. And so I kind of always had that in the back of my mind.
I'm trying to ask questions as if I don't know you, but I have to tell stories because I do know you. Didn't you cry to your mom?
Yes.
When you told her that story? I was
doing my devotions on a break. I was home for fall break or Christmas break or something. And I was doing my devotions, and I got up and I was just getting ready for the day. And it was I couldn't get this spirit leading thought out of my mind, where I was just kept wrestling with it. And then all of a sudden I just started crying, and my mom's like, what is wrong? What? I was like, I think God's telling me that I'm going to marry a man with children, and I just have to expect my life not to be cookie cutter.
Joke's on you.
I didn't know how true it was going to be. So yeah, I always kind of understood that I was called to something unique. And so I've always had a very different perspective on it, because I was never, I can't say that I was always content being single. That's definitely not the case. But I had a bigger picture mindset with it. So I was never necessarily afraid that I wasn't going to get married. It was more of why it wasn't happening now.
And we'll get to that bigger picture mindset here in a little bit. But when you were in high school, because I think I was a youth pastor at the Christian school you were at. You were basically the school's youth pastor. Let's just call it what it is. You were the student life spiritual director of the entire high school, whatever the title was. You basically were the youth pastor who planned everything.
I was the fun part of the youth.
Yeah, you did everything.
I wasn't allowed to have the
walk up and teach.
Part. Yes.
Right.
I did the
And we're not here to talk about that.
Whatever.
But it's more the fact of, I was a youth pastor. You basically had you walked the same path I did. You did it single. I did it when I was married. But so many times I feel like half of the conversations that I would have with junior hires and high schoolers is what boy this girl's into, what girl this dude, potentially, hopefully is, maybe she'll notice me. I don't know. But it's so much about these relationships are walking alongside kids who are dating somebody where it's okay, please don't screw your life up. Just
no. My first
keep
question
your hands in your pockets, don't do nothing, and then they break up, and then you have to sit there with them in the heartache, and you gotta and I've done it. I've traveled down to college and hung out with people after they've had breakups, and I feel I don't want to say that's all the youth pastor life is watching people date and then break up and then bounce to the next thing. But that's the biggest part of it. Most youth pastors are always talking about, how do you handle, PDA in youth groups? How do you handle, guys and girls who want to hold hands, or they're kind of little touchy-feely? It's you can't get away from that even in junior high and high school. And your boy got in trouble a lot in high school. I was not the greatest, but you never even dated a single dude in your high school, in your youth group.
Well,
which was
two
the same
guys
thing.
in my high school graduating class I'd known since kindergarten or earlier, and that was just.
But did you ever once think, is there something wrong with me that you're not attracted to these guys, or you want to have a boyfriend, or you want to have this?
Yes, there were always times that the enemy would fill my thoughts of, funny fact. I don't know if I know I've told you this. There was a guy in college that I had zero patience for. And this is also, I don't take any crap from anybody, and I never have.
No, she doesn't, guys. She
does
not.
I'm going to tell you like it is. I'm really nice, and I'm really non-confrontational until you hit that button. And then I have no grace.
But you also,
that's not true.
You are a
very
very good communicator.
Mm-hmm.
you don't have time to beat around the bush like I do. You just go,
No.
I need to tell you something, so I'm going to tell it to you.
Yeah. And if somebody offends me, it takes a lot to offend me. And once you offend me, I'm going to let you know because I want to either A, educate you, or B, shut you down.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a guy who just did not appreciate my personality for some reason. I'm such a lovely person all the time.
I don't think I know this one.
He told me, we were in some math classes. We were in the same class in college. And he said, Beth, I could fill up a whole Word document of reasons of why you're single.
You have told me this one.
And I was like, well, thank you. I don't want your perspective on my singleness anyways, or why I'm attractive or anything, because I think you're a moron.
Okay.
Yeah. So there were times, yes, that I would think, why am I single? But I was a very determined person. I've always been a big picture, goal oriented person. I knew what God called me to. And somebody, I remember talking to a guy somebody introduced me to. He went to another Bible college and we were talking and I said, adoption is a passion of mine and I will adopt one day. And he said, well, I would only want to adopt if my wife couldn't have kids. And I said, well, first of all, it could also be your problem. So adoption is not a plan B for me. My adoption is always going to be a plan A. And my children will never, ever, adopted or biological, will never, ever think that they are plan B because that's not what adoption's for. It's not a plan B. While God uses infertility to draw people to adoption, adoption's not plan B. Sorry, it's a little...
It's your passion. It's what it is.
That's the way I always was. Like I always led with my passions or with my goals. And if a guy didn't match that, then that was not a match for me because I wasn't about to change myself for a man.
But did you ever get shut down though for opportunities because you were single? Because you weren't married or you weren't like some pastor's wife or...
You mean like
opportunities, like whether like trying to get to the mission field or opportunities at the school.
Well, I mean, it was just more
difficult.
It was difficult. And then I, went through the classic workplace chauvinism and, well, we know that guy doesn't work well with you because he doesn't like women in leadership. And we gave him the job that he wanted, or we gave you the job that he wanted and all this stuff, and dealing with that and being a single mom too was very difficult. And I was treated like a pregnant teenager at some point in my career, and that was really hard. So yeah, I've had difficulties being fully accepted as adult when I'm a young single woman, because somehow being married magically matures you into something else. But being a strong independent woman isn't maturing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I never got
and
it.
and to segue out of this, because I was going to ask you another question, but I think this would be a good time because I'm even thinking about, okay, so obviously I don't want to say worldview, your perspective's a little different because you're not sitting around, you never were sitting around waiting for a dude to show up. You weren't like, oh, I hope I can get married so I can finally start my life, or
right.
or oh shoot, I'm single, I guess I can't.
I mean, I'm not
go
magically
and do these
content.
things.
I mean, I cried over a few boys that didn't like me, that liked friends of mine, or liked a girl that I was like, what? Her? She's a child.
She's a child.
It happened a couple times.
Oh goodness.
But
not an actual child, but like
no.
emotionally
Like
immature.
we were mid-20s and she was like 18. So.
Oh, gotcha.
So yeah, no, but I was never just sitting around waiting to get married, or like, I mean, I might have, when I was visiting churches in Knoxville, I was like, ooh, this might be the church I meet my husband at. So it always looked really nice. But, you get into the habit of, or not in habit, but you set your mind on, the Bible verse is set your mind on things above and not things on the earth. And while being married, from, my perspective now, is an excellent gift.
You're welcome.
Yes, Mark, you are the gift.
You're welcome.
But marriage is a beautiful, wonderful gift, but it wasn't my goal. Jesus was my goal.
And I think that might be part of the issue is marriage is a gift. Like, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, what does the Bible say about marriage? Well, God created marriage. We see Adam and Eve, and he looked at Adam and said, oh, shoot. He didn't say, oh, shoot. That's not true. He was like, it's not good for man to be alone. So he made him a companion, a helpmate. Oop. What?
He said, "Ope."
No, Adam said, "Ope." That's what Adam. He went, "Dude." Have you ever heard of why Adam called Eve woman? He looked at her and went, "Whoa, man." Dad joke. But God created marriage. He created Eve for Adam, and subsequently, I believe he made Adam for Eve. And you see so much in scripture about what rules married people should have with one another. You look in the church and there's so many, young family ministries, and here's the couples ministry, and here's these married people, and here's these marriage retreats, and
there's also the little bit of over romanticizing church members do, where like marriage is a picture of bride and of Christ and the bride, and so there's that. In my perspective, there's a hyper over romanticizing of that picture. And then it becomes like, you should get married so you can represent the beautiful picture of or Christ and the bride.
And actually show people the gospel through your marriage.
When
that's what I say. When I've done a few different a few different wedding ceremonies. That's part of the language that I use. This is what this picture represents.
Right, but I think you're missing out on more if you just over romanticize that, because singleness is a gift. Some people hate that term. I did. I'm like, oh, cool. Yay.
You got the gift that does not give.
Really though, when you're stuck buying Christmas gifts for every single person in your family and you get nothing, it's great. I'm not bitter.
You're not bitter at all. But
I love giving gifts because I'm a 2, so it actually doesn't bother me.
I think there's something inside of all of us though that does long for that companionship.
Well, we were created to. It is not a bad thing to want marriage, and that was something that I wrestled with actually a couple years before meeting you. It's okay. I'm not a desperate spinster.
A desperate spinster. That's a phrase.
Yes. I'm not a desperate spinster if I'm wishing for marriage and praying for marriage. I mean, when I went through my Bible study fervent with my church, there's a whole section on praying for your husband and praying for your children. And I specifically prayed for my future husband. You're welcome. Many different things. I prayed specific things. I prayed for, your spiritual life. I've prayed for your financial welfare. I've prayed for your health. I've prayed for your education. I don't know. I've prayed for lots of different specific things, but I prayed for you, not for me to just have a husband. I've prayed for that too, but it was that different mindset shift that I got when I was like, okay, I'm going to pray for this person that God will enrich their life now so we can, and I want to pray that God enriches my life and grows me closer to him now so that when we come together, we can be a couple that is based on Christ, because we're not looking to fulfill each other. We're looking to be fulfilled by Christ, which is how we were designed. But we were created to desire marriage and desire companionship.
And I think all of society gets that. That's why we got, set aside Christian Mingle and these Christian dating sites. What's the other one, like freechristiandating.com or something like that?
My sister met her husband.
Oh. But we have Tinder, we have Bumble, we have
The Bachelorette.
Yeah, that's a guilty pleasure. That's for sure.
I got him hooked.
Yeah.
You're welcome for outing you.
I'm still bitter. If you're not caught up, I'm still bitter about what Katie did. Poor Greg and Michael A. They're my boys. But either way, and Connor B too. But so some people have no idea what's going on, but Kimberly Frericks, you know what's up. So but our society is in basically they like, I have to find my person. I know that was the term Katie always in the Bachelor. I just need to find my person. And
I am my own person.
Every time she but every time she looked at the boys, she would say, "You're not my person," or "I'm trying to figure out if you're my person." And like everyone is so obsessed with finding my person, which I think is so funny, because then you just look at Bachelor and Bachelorette and Bachelor Nation, like, who's that? And you're like, oh, they're from this season and this season and that season. And I'm like, well, apparently they keep screwing up and not finding the one, which we've talked about that in I don't remember what episode that was. Fuller and I did about finding your soulmate, and is there such a thing as a soulmate and finding your one. We talked about that in past episodes. But our culture and society is so ingrained in you have to find your person. In fact, I'm trying to load this up here real quick. I want to read 3 of these quotes actually. So one is from Oscar Wilde, which is obviously not a Christian. I think is he a philosopher?
He's
Oscar Wilde is a
very popular author.
I'll say, yeah, you're the English person, so you'd know better than me. But here's what he said about singleness. He said, celibacy is the only known sexual perversion. In other words, the only thing that's wrong is being single. Everything else, go for it, homie. But single, yeah, that's what sexual perversion is. Which is obviously that's not a Christian worldview at all, but that's a worldview that so many people in the world have. And I think so much of that has potentially even poured into Christianity in terms of, if you're not married, you can't actually serve God to your full potential. You can't actually do this. Most youth pastor.
I was told I should not by a deacon at my church. I was told that I should not make any permanent ministry decisions as a single woman unless I have chosen the path of being a dedicated spinster. I said, pass on that advice. I'm going to go serve Jesus anyways.
And I know Fuller and I, we've had episode 100. Me and him have some disagreements on, does a youth pastor or pastor need to be married to step into ministry? But I've actually seen youth pastor job postings where they actually say you have to be married and at least one kid who is not in youth group and your wife cannot work. That was actually in the youth pastors thing. In fact, it's actually funny. I applied for one youth pastor gig and they gave me the salary package and I'm like, that's lower than what I made in college. And they're like, well, your wife can go work because you can't get a second job. This will be your job and this is all we can pay you. So she's going to have to help go work and figure something out. And I'm like, geez, okay, that's not okay either. But this idea of finding your person, though, I think is so ingrained in the church and even in the Jewish times. There's a couple quotes here which I thought were kind of fascinating. It says, in the first century, Rabbi Eleazar said, any man who has no wife is no proper man. And then the Talmud, which Fuller and I have talked about the Talmud a lot. It's kind of like the commentary by the Jewish rabbis on the Old Testament. It says that the man who is not married at 20 is living in sin. If you're not married by the age of 20, you're living in sin, AKA ring by spring. That's what he's pretty much saying for Bible college talk. But Jewish cultures is the fact of, even in in the Jewish culture, the Middle Eastern culture, the fact of a woman is born into the world to be a wife and a mom. That's it. You're not called to go have your own career. You're not called to do things. In fact, in the Middle East still today, they're still dealing with some of that, with inequality between men and women and child marriages and all these different things. But that goes completely against what the Apostle Paul even said, though, in the New Testament, where he's like, I wish all of you were like me, single, so that you could serve Jesus.
Now being on the other side of marriage and being able to look at it both ways, and what Paul said of when you're married, you have to think of things of the world because you're having to, and obviously
you have to make decisions you and I are having to make right now.
Yes. And, being single, it frees you up. I used to be life would be so much easier if I had a husband. I have all
spill the
these
tea, girl.
kids.
Spill the tea.
And so I would always be and my married friends would be like, well, you say that, but marriage is so much difficult and it doesn't uncomplicate things. It actually complicates it more because there's more. The past 9 months, I love you, have been very difficult to learn how to make just simple decisions for the kids and for us and just the house of I can't just make a unilateral decision because I'm the only adult in the house. I have to make a decision with you and clear with you. And I, on when the kids ask, what are we doing tonight? I'm like, I don't know. I talked to your dad. So, it's not I can just.
Can I just say, I love that excuse though. Whenever A was up my butt, can we do this? I got to talk to your mom first. Got to figure things out with mom. It's such a glorious thing. I'm not going to lie.
Oh yeah. And there are definitely so many perks, but the mental, I remember you asking me this a couple months ago. You're like, what's the hardest part about being married now? And I was like, making decisions, because it's harder. It's, whenever I decided, I don't know, we've never actually talked about this, but how you would have handled all the adding of children and fostering more and all that.
I added 5 in one day.
Okay.
Beat that one.
Okay. But it was the decision
it's different,
process
completely
was so
different. I chose
different.
you and the girls.
Yes. You had some time to sit on it. You didn't get a phone call and be like, all right, there's this kid. Do you want him? I'm like, oh, sure. That's kind of how I answered all those calls. But, I don't know if I would have been able to say yes the way I did. When I entered foster care, I said, I'm laying my yes at the feet of Jesus. And I really did that. I mean, I did have times I said no because I just didn't have a peace about it. And now I can see the whys because of the timing and the children I did end up with. But I don't know if I don't know if I would have all 5 of my children if I were married. Well, first of all, I was 24 when I started. Most 24 I do know some really awesome couples that started very young, but most couples, it's not how they view adding children to their life. They're mostly like, okay, we want a family. Let's add a child into our family. And I'm like, I got a family and this child needs a family. Let's make that happen. And so when you're single, you're able to use your singleness. You're able to make decisions in your life in a way that's it's just different. And so you have the freedom to make decisions for you and for your ministries without having to clear it with somebody else. And there's a really cool beauty in that, though.
There is. I mean, I was only single there, before I married you for a little bit. But even in that, it's like, like last second, a teenager would be like, hey, I have a concert tomorrow. I will be there. Or like, hey, like Fuller and I started the podcast. Now, obviously, he had to clear it with Janelle,
right,
and make sure it was cool for there. But for me, I literally told him, anytime, day or night, whenever you are free, it makes sense for you and Janelle, text me and I'll make I can make it work. Do I need to work all? And I used to. I mean, you would text me. I would work Thursday night sometimes till midnight, just so I could just shove my whole workday into one day, and then I could do podcasts Friday morning, and then I can do other things another times.
Right. And like you were able to just jump in the car and head down to Purdue to visit some students because you wanted
cool.
to.
I was able to just jump in the car and go to Tennessee because I could. But
yeah, please don't leave. Please don't go to Purdue.
I meant to visit you.
I know
go to
that,
Purdue?
but I'm saying don't go to Purdue anytime soon because I need you here. And that's the whole point. It's like you were more singly focused on your ministry and what you can do. And you're not, I don't know the last time I went and hung out with some friends, actually. Just me and my friends because...
Well, you just moved to a town.
Well, I just moved here, so I'm still getting...
But here's the cool thing, and let's lean into this a little bit because, again, I love the fact that this isn't something that we're just talking about singleness, but you literally walk the steps. What I don't think a lot of people realize is you left home, central Indiana, to go down to Knoxville, which is one of the big cities in Tennessee. I mean, granted, it's no Nashville, but it's still pretty, it's a bumping downtown, to a big city, Knoxville. You went to school there for 4 years. You decided to stay. 3.5. You were fast. But then you decided to stay in Knoxville, create a life in Knoxville, find a church, start a family, find friends. So you had a group of just single mom friends who most of them were foster adopted moms too.
I chose to put myself into my community. I chose to put myself involved in a church. I had to choose and make the effort. And I had a great life down in Knoxville. I loved it. It was very hard to come. It still is.
We'll say,
you
still grieve it. Yeah.
I still am very sad about torn sad, but I'm sad when I miss Knoxville. And I get very homesick because Knoxville I'll tell people I'm from Knoxville. I grew up in Indiana, but Knoxville made
Beth
me.
Schneider became Beth Schneider in Knoxville.
Absolutely. And I learned so much about myself and so much about God in Knoxville as I grew into who God made me and accepted who I was. I went through a huge identity, I guess it started off as a crisis, but it became a settling of who I was. And I wasn't, I had 2 sisters on either side of me. I'm the middle child. And Cindy was super musical and Missy was super athletic. And I was... Just Beth. My mother introduced me as that. I was a grown adult. And my mom said, no, that's Cindy. Cindy just got married and Missy just graduated high school. And this is just Beth. And I was like, super. So, I kind of went through an identity shift of how I saw myself and who I was in the world. And I dated myself. And that was a great summer. It was the first summer I lived alone. It was the first summer I just figured out who I was, learned what I liked to do. I learned that I like to go antiquing. You need to take me antiquing sometimes. So,
Okay.
by the way. I learned that I like going downtown. I like going to coffee shops. I loved visiting churches. I found out what I like to do, and I found out that I'm a person outside of school and work and my family. I was an individual, and it was such a cool experience, and I journaled a ton during that, and I loved it. It was a great opportunity.
And so what I'm hearing you say is it's not like you were a half a person looking for your other half. You were a person, you were Beth.
Yeah.
And you weren't sitting around waiting for someone to make you whole. You weren't finding someone to plug the hole in your heart. Like, you're a person, and you went out and did it. Now, for you as a single person, though, you've been a part of multiple different churches. You've been a part of super conservative. You've been part of ones where it's like, worship pastor totally has no shoes on he has no shoes right now. He's just playing barefooted. Cool. And then you've been part of more like traditional ones.
Yeah.
Do you think the church actually makes it hard on singles?
Okay, so
because this is something I've struggled with, and so Shay and I have tried to figure things out for Southside too.
I think churches get real awkward around single people, single adults, because they're like,
you don't really fit in anywhere.
Yeah, and you know what? When I was single at one church, the college and career really wasn't my scene because I was not necessarily like them because I got 2 children. I started fostering. So I was like headed towards that direction. But then the only other like group that fit me was the young marrieds class. So I joined a young marrieds class and I had the most children.
That's
and I only
really
had 2.
funny.
I only had 2 at the time. And so, it was real awkward. I tried to find my place there. And eventually, God led me away from there just because I just wasn't connecting. And I really needed community because, people started seeing me as a story and not a person. And so I really wanted community. And I joined Whitestone Church down there in Knoxville. And they were like, hey, we love you because God loves you. And we're just going to love the crap out of you and your kids. And we don't care if you're single. We don't care how old you were. Women who were 30, 20 years older than me were my friends. And then people who were just a couple of years older than me or my age or younger who were married and had kids or didn't have kids were my friends.
And you actually found people who, like I'm thinking Krista, who's single and had a couple of kids too.
Yeah. And it was such an eclectic, and it's such a beautiful way to connect because I don't think necessarily, I love groups and I think that they can be great, but I also think that mixed fellowship and just bonding together with your community and not just be like, oh, you're a single mom, let's find you a single mom group. Or you're a foster mom, you can only hang out with foster moms. Or you're a stay-at-home mom, you can only hang out with stay-at-home moms. Like that's small groups should be a smaller version of the church, and that needs to have the variety that the church does. And so while, yes, you can connect, I had a group of single adoptive moms that I hung out with.
But they weren't all from your church,
no,
right?
They weren't, no.
And were all of them even Christians?
Yeah, they were.
Were they? Okay.
Yeah. And so, there's a beauty in variety. And so I loved it when people didn't care about marital status, and not everybody did. I'm not saying that, but there was no awkwardness based on my marital status, I think. And so churches just need to love, I remember Andrew Wood, you interviewed him 1 year.
Oh, I think that was 73.
I don't know, but he and his wife invited me over to their house for Easter one time because they knew I didn't have any family and I was just in town.
I don't think I knew that actually.
Yeah. They invited me and I was just like,
hey, episode 73.
Oh, wow. I'm impressed.
I know
your
my
memory
episodes.
is not that great.
It's not great until I had to find episodes.
And so, they just invited me in and I got to eat Easter lunch with them. And, because they didn't have any family and I wasn't about to drive. My parents lived, 7 hours away. No, actually, at that time, they probably lived 13 hours away. I grew up in Wisconsin. But, it was great to be loved on by who I am in God instead of who I am because of my marital status, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So let me step into not so much the role of the church, but when I'm thinking single person specifically. Like I know a lot of our followers. We have some kids that are in college, which are super cool.
Yeah.
I know specifically we have some that are single, both guy and girl, who are out of college. They're doing their life. They're trying to figure things out. Some of them are dating, some of them are not. What if they find themselves in a church and they're like, you know what? Like, I love the church. I love, Pastor Bob, whoever the pastor is. I love the worship. I love this, but I don't feel like there's a place for me. I feel like I'm the outsider. Like when they have prayer meetings.
I would have questions first.
You would have questions?
Yeah. What are you doing to make yourself part of the church?
Rather than just sit back and hope someone finds you?
Yeah.
But, but I also am thinking of like specific people that I know went to Southside. And we had one girl, she was a year younger than me, and she was the greatest youth leader. Honestly, one of the greatest ones I've ever had. She was always present, but the thing that was super cool was because she was single, she had her junior high girls at her house all the freaking time. Yeah. Like, and they were going out and doing stuff, and she would just text me and be like, hey, I kind of want to do this with the girls. Is that cool? I'm like, go have a great time at the mall with the girls. Like, you don't even, I'll post it. You tell me what to post on Instagram, and you guys just go live it up. And it was super awesome to see. But I also know it's hard when there's a lot of young couples who are, either getting married or they are married and they have kids, and you feel alone in the church.
Yeah, I would just, honestly, I have had couples over to my house. I invited them over for dinner.
But you, like, you single Beth would be inviting like married couples? Okay.
Yes.
I see you.
Hospitality doesn't come with just a ring.
Is that the quote of the episode? Hospitality doesn't come with a ring.
Okay.
It's true. It's true.
But I'm also a 2, so this is my personality.
Enneagram, folks. What's up?
I love having people in my home. I love hosting. I love feeding people. And if you love my food, that just makes my day. And I would invite people over, and then they would invite me over, and then we'd build a friendship, because that's how friendships work, is when they go both ways.
So what I'm hearing you say is maybe if someone is single, maybe get out of your comfort zone and and do something that's not normal.
Well, first of all, if you're single and you're trying to, quote unquote, actively dating, that is uncomfortable. Nothing is more uncomfortable than awkwardly dating. Okay. I've tried online dating. I've done the whole chat with a guy, get awkward, call on the phone. Oh, I was not interested.
Had hit on the security installer.
Okay. One time, here's a
This is my favorite story.
No, it is. You know how they're like, get out there and go date because no one's gonna come. You're not gonna just meet a man knocking on your front door. Well, I did, sort of. It didn't work out, but I felt really, really, really awesome for doing this.
Like Wonder Woman vibes, where it's I just asked him out and he said
well, you just ruined the story.
Oh. Rewind.
So I had a guy come to my house to sell me ADT security, and I might have purchased it. I needed it, but I don't know if ADT would have been the option.
When them salesmen are cute.
That's real cute, okay? Lucy had to have been 3 weeks old, so I had 5 kids, 2 of which were 4 months old, 5 months. No, she was 5 months old and 3 weeks old. And I remember he was talking to me through it. I looked like a freaking hot mess. And I remember feeding Lucy a bottle while he's running me the spiel. And Lucy burps in his face. The cutest little burp, because she's 3 weeks old. But it's still, he was like, whoa. And so I was like, okay, maybe we vibe in. I don't know. I don't know how to read these things. And so he gave me his number. So for the security reason, to make sure that the security got installed.
That's why I gave you my number too.
No, but I was like, my friend and I were talking, and she was like, oh no, he gave you his number. And I was like, I don't know. So I texted him a few days later, said, hey, the security system got set up. Thank you so much for your help. Hey, I know this might be a little. I bet you've never had this before, but a single mom with 5 kids might be asking you out or something. I don't even remember the guy's name at this point. But I asked him out. And he was like, I'm flattered, but I'm actually seeing somebody, so I can't. But thank you.
But he didn't say no.
He didn't say no. But I don't even care that I got shut down, because I felt so awesome. I was like, who else wants to be asked out by Beth Schneider? I mean,
you said it a little longer.
I felt really great about it. The rejection didn't feel terrible. It was more nerve-wracking to ask than to be denied.
Have you seen this article from Relevant Magazine? They just posted it on their Facebook page yesterday from time of recording. It says, stop waiting for him to ask you out. That's
yes,
the title
girls.
of the article.
No, I called you out when we were talking.
You did.
I did.
And the best part, okay, so if people fully know the story, Nicole Haubold, we actually asked her to be the interview for episode 39 about foster care because she has a cool story too. She works for a foster care agency now and she still fosters her little one. Hopefully knock on wood, the adoption will go through. And she was like, no, Marc, you want this girl on the show. And I was like, okay, cool. So we had you on the show, and then we were texting, and Nicole Haubold was probably besides Fuller and Devin, she was probably the only person that knew that we were still in communication. And
half of Knoxville knew that we were talking.
But she flat out looked at me and said, I'm going to warn you, Marc, because I get this vibe from Beth. You better be prepared to answer the DTR question because she will ask you.
It's been like a month and a half,
I'm like,
man.
no, you're not. I know she's not. She's not going to do that.
Girls, don't wait around.
It was like the same day. You were like, okay, so I just got to know, what is this? And I'm like, oh, shoot.
I'm like, no, I don't play games, though.
You don't.
But I'm a very straightforward person. I'm not going to play games. If
I would have dragged my feet a little longer.
I
would have dragged my feet probably much longer.
I picked that up. I was very aware that was most likely going to happen. So I knew that my heart was getting very much attached to Marc. And I thought, that's probably not going to be the best choice for me because I'm going to protect me. And I'm not afraid of hard conversations. So I asked him, I said, so I'm not asking you to date me right now, just with your story. And obviously we were long distance, so that complicated it. And I was like, I'm not asking you to date me, but I need to know what this is because we're talking every day and I'm spending a significant amount of time and energy on you. And if this is going nowhere, I can't talk anymore because we can still be friends and stuff, whatever, but we can't spend every day, all day texting because I have 5 children to raise. I ain't got time for that crap.
So I said, bet.
So then we were married, like, what would that be, like 10 months later? Yeah, I was May. That was the end of May.
That was May, yeah, so 10 months later.
You're welcome.
There you go. So to kind of land the plane a little bit, I feel like I'm sitting here feeling, man, it's funny to look back over our story a little bit too. But
yes, but I also think like there's a big deal for women especially and men too. You do not have to wait to be married to serve God. That's a bunch of baloney. And if God calls you to something, it most likely means he's calling you to it at that time. Obviously, there are some things that you need to wait on. If you don't have a car, you can't be called to drive sweet old ladies to church. That there's obvious details. For me, I was called to foster care and I was like, okay, why would I sit on this? And I had lots of people discouraging me. And one guy even told me, that's like putting the cart before the horse. You're never going to get married. And I said, okay, fine. And I had one lady who I actually ended up going to church with her years later. And she remembered me and what I said to her that day. She said something about, oh my gosh, your daughters look just like you. And I was getting donuts at Maker's Donuts with Ava and City on the very first morning I had them. So I got them at like 1:00 the day before. First morning, I took them out to donuts with some friends of mine. And she said how much my daughters look like me, which I still get that. And I think it's hilarious. And I said, oh, wow, that's hilarious because I just met them yesterday. And I was like, I'm a foster parent. And, it took me off guard. So I wasn't very, it probably is not the best way to admit to somebody, but it just took me off guard. And she was like, wait, you are? She was like, you're so young. I'm like, yeah, well, I'm single. Like, just kind of like my story came out. And she was like, aren't you afraid you're going to be single forever? And I was like, well, my goal is still the same. God called me to foster care or called me to orphan care when I was 15. That's always going to be a goal of mine. Why would I step away from my goals just to get married? Because marriage is not my goal. Serving Jesus is, and Jesus has called me to foster care.
So do you think a lot of people have turned marriage into the goal, and that's why when people finally get, they just go for marriage, they get married, and then things like bad things happen?
Some people and some women have the goal of being a stay-at-home mom, and that is a beautiful gift.
Right, there's nothing wrong with that,
and it can be a goal.
You were a stay-at-home mom without even being a wife.
Yeah, in working as a mom, I'm not going to get into all that nitty gritty stuff, but like, what is your goal? There is more. I don't want to say there's more to life than being a mom, because that's obviously, I don't like working right now because I want to be home with my babies. I cried every day since I started work because I want to be home with my babies. I don't want to have to work. But my goal is not just I don't know how to say this without sounding offensive too, because God has created you with unique gifts and abilities. You can use that anywhere. How does that apply to how does that apply to every part of your life? God has called me to love people big. That is my goal. And through that, God has also given me the passion for foster care and adoption. And I wasn't going to let my marital status stop me from doing that. And so for me, if somebody did not align with my goals, I'm not going to date them and marry them. There were lots of questions that I had for you. And, even down to, how do you feel about having a transracial family? And how do you feel about adoption? And we had to have those hard conversations. Obviously it was more pertinent because these people were human beings, not
right.
like figurative. Like, how do you feel about adoption one day? It's like, how do you feel about adoption? Like
right now,
this is happening.
Yeah. Which, fun fact, our adoption day for me to adopt the girls is in what? Not even a month?
Yeah. Like 3 weeks.
Yeah. And those were all conversations that we had to have. But I think the big picture here that I'm taking away with this is you had to ask the question, what did God make you to do?
Because you were a whole person.
Right.
You're a whole person, married or not.
So do you think maybe when people are
Even
single, like
desired,
I'm thinking the college kids right now, I'm thinking the 24s, 25s, heck, even the 30s, that, they're not married. They're just hanging out doing their thing. Do you think it's time to do a little bit of soul searching and go, what did God create me for?
Right.
And let's go do it.
Yeah. Don't sit on your hands. There's like a lot of, I'm waiting for marriage. I guess that's more dealing with sex, but like, I'm waiting. I'm waiting for God to bring me somebody. And yes, that's a good thing to be waiting and to be hopeful, but don't let that prohibit you from searching God and serving other people and loving people big. And you know what? As a single person, sometimes that's exhausting. Loving other people and feeling unloved in the process, that is exhausting and discouraging. And I will be 100% honest with you. That is when it felt the hardest to be single. Because I'm like, I'm loving everybody so well and so hard and so big.
And at the end of the night, it's just you on the couch.
And it's just me. And that's hard. That's hard to see and experience, you pouring yourself out and everyone be like, oh, how are you still single? You're such a great person. I'm like, I know. I know. Me a man. I need these fools to get with it. Sorry, I'm trying to I was going to make a joke, but not appropriate. So I need, I need people to understand, like, you are a whole person, whether or not you're married, and you're allowed to want marriage all in the same thing. It's just like a lot of, the older I get and the more experiences I have, the more I'm like, everything can be both good and hard at the same time. Parenting, good and hard. Singleness, good and hard at the same time. Moving to South Bend to be with the literal man of my dreams and give my children a father and have all this beautiful, wonderful story is so good and amazing, but it has been dang hard
and exhausting. We went to bed at what time last night? 9:15.
It was glorious. I am normally a night owl, and I was just
I have fallen asleep at 9:15
multiple
three times
this week. And I don't know. Singleness was a beautiful thing for me. And I'm so thankful for all the things that I got to learn. I was able to buy 2 houses as a single woman. Well, technically 3. And I was able to foster and adopt 5 children. I did incredible. I got to do an incredible job teaching Latin and doing student life and worship arts and volleyball coaching. I was able to pour into so many kids' lives. And you know what? I used to say a lot, people are a bad investment because you're never going to get an ROI on them.
Nope.
And you know what? I'd never want to waste my life on anything else. and I love people, but that's what God's called me to do, is love people big. And that was something I remember us talking about, is like, you asked me, what is God's calling on your life? Like, you asked me like specifically, and I said, I think it's to love people big. And I've learned that I also can't expect it in return, which sounds super sad. But when you shift your perspective to how much love I've gotten from my Father in heaven, and how much he has just poured his grace out on my life. And that sometimes feels very empty when you're sitting there and saying, it's okay, I'm going to love everybody big, I'm going to pour out my life. It's okay because Jesus loves me. But when you're able to spend that time that you have because you are single, and the extra free time, and you're able to pour into your relationship with God, it really is as fulfilling as people say it is. And I've been there where I have spent a couple hours in the Word and journaling and worshiping, and I felt most content when I was secure in who I was in my Savior. And it's such a cool place to be, and something I don't get to experience a lot now. I don't get to have those experiences now. Not because I'm married. It's just it sounds like I'm making excuses. I don't make the time like I used to because it's not as easily made, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
well, there's a lot. I mean, that's what the Apostle Paul even says in that passage in Corinthians, where he says that there's things that we have to take care of. We have to take, I mean, obviously you were single even with kids, we still have to deal with kids, but there's so many other factors of life that we have to deal with.
Right. But I mean, my kids are in bed by 7, so
right. I
could live it up, quote unquote.
Live it up with ice cream and The Bachelor.
Well, but I think singleness isn't a taboo. Being single isn't a curse. It is a blessing, as much as that's annoying to hear. And you are worthy of love, so much so that your Father sent his Son to die on the cross for you. You're
be preaching now.
Like, oh, give me another hour and I'll
Jeez.
go. But I just want to encourage all you single people out there to look at your bigger picture. Look at the big picture of the gospel. How are you displaying the gospel with your life? Because you as a single person, while your lack of a marriage doesn't negate the beauty of the gospel and what Christ has done for the church.
Mm-hmm.
Because you are a person and God saved you, and your life can speak as much of the gospel as a married person's life can. Use your life wisely, married or not, because God created you for something. Don't waste your life.
Dang, Molly be preaching tonight.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. It's preaching. I'm just kidding.
I feel like I got to step into my pastor hat a little bit too. And, everything you said, I think what's cool about it is it's not spoken from suggestion in books, but that was life experience that you lived. And, I see so many people, though, while they're waiting for their person, they give up, they're tired, let's just be honest, they're like, screw this, like, I'm tired of waiting anymore. And I don't want to see people who are single, do something that they can't ever undo, whether it comes to partying hard or screwing around or, sex, knocking people up, like that's stuff that can literally mess up your course of your future. But at the same token, I see a lot of these quotes that are super cool where it's like, rather than, praying that God brings you a godly spouse, pray that you become the godly spouse that someone else deserves. Mm-hmm. And rather than focusing on, I hope I find the one, I said this in that other episode. I said, why don't you start focusing on being the one for somebody else? So that way, when that person comes along, it's not one of those like the joke that you said, oh, man, he don't want this. He wants a child instead. Like, you could be a grown child by the age of 40. Like,
oh yeah,
and
I've
so
seen many men like that.
Many, and that's the thing. So many dudes just sit around doing what? Eating Cheetos, playing video games, picking their nose, and eating their boogers. Like, that's actually my son. But But he's 6, so I think he's kind of allowed to do that still.
We have time.
But even though he did tell us on his first day of kindergarten, he said that he only picked his nose when his friends were not looking, and he only ate his boogers when the teachers were not looking. That's my son, guys. But, at the same token, it's like so many times I'm thinking from the dude perspective, we just play video games. We bum around. We don't do much rather than focusing on, no. You got to focus on yourself too, in terms of not focus on yourself, but focus on, for lack of better words, I'm just going to use the Bible as being conformed to the image of Jesus. So that way, when a woman comes along and you're like, dang, I think she could be the one, and you don't want her to look at you and be like, yeah, boss, you ain't ready for this.
Hey, if you want some good, okay, so here's another. I know we're running out of time, but like,
oh, girl, we passed time.
It's fine. I like to talk. I could talk all day about this stuff because I lived it for a really long time, and I've been through the multiple. I'm going to online date because I need a man. No, I don't need a man, so I'm just going to delete it. Okay, well, I need to give it a chance because God can use anything, so I'm going to online date again, and then I delete it again. And then I'm going to think, oh, well, everybody, you have to let God use all the opportunities and tools to get married. So I've been the whole not online dating, trying to go on blind dates, getting ghosted. There you go. But one thing that I remember kind of resting in is like, I'm like, okay, I want to read these books about being single. I want to read this about being single. I want to listen to all these podcasts, but it hit me. If I want to be a great single person or be ready for marriage even, I need to be closer to God. So I need to stop focusing on being single or wanting to be married or being married, and I need to grow closer to God, because out of that, God will produce the fruits of the Spirit, and I'll be able to love better and be a better person and be a better Christian and a better whatever. And so I kind of leaned into that. And then I found Matt Chandler's sermon series, Beautiful Design, which you'll have to link that in the show notes because I'm a big fan of this series.
I feel like we should start getting affiliate links from the Village Church for
yes,
that.
I'm a big Matt Chandler fan, but his Beautiful Design series, it's 10 sermons long, so buckle up. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on their church website.
We'll put it in the show notes. Hopefully I'll remember this time.
Yes, but I'll make sure you remember. Don't worry. He just talked about, like, women, if you find a man and you feel stronger than them and that makes you feel like you're intimidating, cool. That man ain't for you. Tell him to go go off to maturation school and maybe he'll get it together and he can come back and you guys can do your thing, like whatever. Like, don't be afraid of being a strong, independent woman, which sounds cliche, but you're not going to scare off a man that God meant for
we tell
you.
people all the time that you're not a strong, independent woman who don't need no man. We tell our girls, no, mama's a strong, independent woman who just happens to have a man, and that's cool.
Yeah, and there's a different, like, I mean, I've kind of had to wrestle. I very much struggled with actually needing you, and because I'm like, I told you that so many times. I'm like, I don't want to need you. But now we're married. We are one person. Well, okay, yeah, I can't make coffee anymore. Now we are one, and I do need you because we are a partnership, and we are one flesh because that's God bound us together when we said our marriage vows, and we are one person now. So I do need you, but I didn't need you to be a person. I did that fine just on my own. I'm a different person because of you, because of your influence in my life and the way you've grown me, or the situation has grown me, whatever. But I didn't need you to be a successful human being. I was a very happy individual. I mean, just recently I was scrolling through old photos and I was looking at the life me and the girls had down in Knoxville, and I was happy and I loved it even before you ever came on the scene. I was a whole person, and I had a whole lot of happiness, and I had a whole relationship with Jesus, and that was enough. And so, yes, hoping for marriage is not a bad thing. Putting all your stock in marriage is not a wise use of your time.
I'm really scared to ask this next question.
What?
Are there any other thoughts that you want to say before we land this plane and get into some fun facts for the evening?
There was something earlier that I think I lost in my thought process, but
how about this? They can follow you on Instagram. Try but hide, and then when it pops in your mind, you can pop it in your stories.
I mean, singleness. I am so. I've told you this before. I'm really glad I got those. 9 years of.
Well, yeah, we joked that if you didn't go through those, who knows? I mean, would we even have been a match?
Oh yeah, because I'm such a different person than I was. Those 9 years ago, when I was like, just being a freshman in college, and I am a better person because I was single and because I really was desperate for Jesus. I wasn't desperate for a man. I was desperate for Jesus, and coming to that place of I need Jesus to fill my life because I have voids. Like we do have voids in our life that Jesus is meant to fill. And you know what? Just because I hate it when people are like, oh, just get content. Because as soon as you get content, that's when Jesus will bring you a man.
Nope.
Heck, I was content like 15 billion times. And you know what? And then I wasn't. And then I was. And then I wasn't. And then I was. And then I wasn't. It's not a magical formula. Just love Jesus and love people and let him figure it out. Because, just look at my life. I did not design or plan any of this. This is all Jesus. People are like, oh my gosh, you're just such an amazing person. I was like, actually, I'm pretty sure I blacked out in part of that because there was just so much going on. So it's all Jesus. This is a Jesus take the wheel situation.
Literally.
So, that's the thing is like, just open your hands to Jesus to do some really, really cool things. Lay your yes at his feet and let him write your story because we talk about this all the time. I love our story. I'm proud of our story. I'm proud that the story and the heritage that we get to give our children because it's God. The good, the ugly, the bad, whatever. And, our family is a family made out of brokenness and God can redeem all of it. And we've seen him come back and redeem so much. I've seen him, the trauma that my girls have experienced, I've seen him redeem them where I don't see evidence of specific issues that we had at the beginning or specific traumas that they had. I don't see evidence of it now. No, they still do struggle. There are still things that come up because trauma it alters your brain. But anyways, God can redeem you and God can redeem what feels broken in your life and what is broken and whatever struggles you may have. But that's the point. God is sufficient. His grace is truly sufficient and he will fill everything in your life.
Time for Fun Facts with Filler.
Well, guys, I
love that.
Man, I hope you guys buckled up for this one because if you didn't, you probably got blown over because Beth, you gave us a TED Talk tonight. But here's the deal, okay? So Fuller's not here. This is actually the second episode that Fuller has ever missed for RTC. He missed episode 11. Missed this one. I missed 3 of them with Paul Lindgren, which was actually just one super long afternoon for Paul and for Fuller. But we have not missed a single fun fact with Fuller in however number 100, 106, 7, whatever 100 number we're on right now. But on your episode, we just happened to say, hey, Beth, you have one. You're like,
I was completely unprepared for
one.
that episode. I will admit. I didn't even know. I thought Marc and Fuller were both married. I didn't know that they were single. And then I married Marc. So
did Nicole Habel tell you I was single?
After, yes.
After Nicole Habel orchestrated
and then I
Jesus,
Facebook stalked you hardcore that night.
So there you go. But you on episode 39 gave a fun fact.
Yes.
So tonight, I think it's okay. I think Fuller will forgive us for you stepping in and telling us the fun fact of the day. Go for it, dear.
Okay, so I have 2 because I couldn't decide which one was more important because I have to talk about Knoxville. Any chance I get. But did you know, Marc, that Elvis Presley's career took off in Knoxville?
Wait, Elvis's?
Yes. It was when a record company that heard his first song blaring from a radio, they bought his contract. And they say the rest is history.
So Elvis Presley started in Knoxville.
And the queen herself.
Beyonce. Oh.
No.
Queen
Dolly
B.
Parton.
I mean, come on. All the single ladies.
No.
All the single ladies.
She's got nothing
She's the
on
queen.
No, she's not.
Beyonce's Queen Bee.
Okay, well,
The beehive
I'll
gonna get
excuse your
you.
ignorance,
Fine,
but-
sorry, the country queen. No, she's
she
just
is
the queen. Okay,
Dolly
Dolly
Parton
Parton.
is gold. But the other fun fact is more of a personal fun fact. But my dad and Mark discovered this summer that they shared the same exact dorm room at Northland Baptist Bible College / Northland International University. The same exact college dorm room, about 25 years apart, which is incredibly fascinating to me.
So, to go back, so you had 3 fun facts.
Yeah, well, Dolly is she's just essential.
So is Dolly from? I missed it. Was Dolly from Knoxville?
She's from Sevierville.
Oh, I've been there, haven't I?
Yeah, that's Gatlinburg.
That's
Pigeon Forge
Gatlinburg,
area. Yeah.
So
Severe
either way, but
family.
Elvis, Dolly Parton, and me and your dad. That's 4 fun facts, kind
Okay.
of, all wrapped in one. But either way, guys, we hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode of Real Talk Christian Podcast. Again, Flo's going to be back next week. I know he misses you guys. I miss him, but I'm also not complaining who the co-host was tonight. So, dear, thank you for joining me for today's episode.
Of course.
So just
Thanks
like
for having me.
just like always, those guys, feel free to reach out to us, realtalkchristianpodcast.com, or you can also do the email at realtalkchristianpodcast@gmail.com, the phone number at 574. Oh shoot, Flo's going to forgive me. It's well, go to the website. It's right there. I was going to get 400-5352, I think is our phone number. You can leave us a voicemail or a text message there. But hit us up on Instagram, Facebook. We've been having a lot of conversations with you guys over there at the DM. So feel free to ask us anything. We've even had phone calls with some of you guys. It's been really cool to see the RTC family and community grow. And feel free to check Beth out as well. Just mainly
Not
Instagram.
like check me out.
No,
'cause
that's
remember, I
my
am
job.
married.
So, wow, we just went there. But check her out on Instagram at Tribe of Hyde.
Yes,
It used to be
different.
at Schneider Ladies, but now it's
Yeah.
at Tribe of Hyde. Well, dear, before we sign off, is there anything else you want to tell the peoples?
No, I mean, I love you. I don't know what else you want me to say.
You're supposed to say, well, I did. So until next time, though, then.
Oh, I didn't.
Okay, you ready? You ready? We're going to do the sign off. We're going to do the sign off. You ready? All right, guys. Well, hey, just like always, reach out to us. But until next time.
See you later.
No,
Talk
it's
to-
take it
No,
easy.
I don't know.
It's take it easy. Jeez.
You'd have to-